Okay, I'm going to teach you a little bit about comparative advantage and absolute advantage, and I'm not going to be doing this mathematically and getting into how we do the math of comparative advantage versus absolute advantage. That's not really what this course is about, but I do need you to understand what it means in general and how that relates to what we call specialization, because that is a basis for why we produce what we produce and where we produce it. Okay, so let's just say there are two countries in this little model. Okay, let's say we got Canada up here, and we all know Canada's north of here, and there's a lot of barren parts of Canada. It's pretty cold, particularly by the Arctic. All right, and then we got Vietnam all the way down here, right? It's in Southeast Asia. It's incredibly humid there, very, very hot. Okay, so these are the two countries, Canada and Vietnam. Okay, and they're going to make two different goods. Right, we're going to figure out who's going to make these two goods. One of them is going to make ice, and one of them is going to make rice. Okay, and we got to figure out who's going to make ice and who's going to make rice. And let's say that we all know that the making ice is just frozen water, and to make rice, we know that you need very humid, very wet conditions. Like the Caribbean used to do it, Florida, but Southeast Asia is great at it because it's insanely humid, it's insanely hot. It rains all the time, in parts of the year, and the rice creation is very, very easy. So, which country should specialize in making ice, and which country should specialize in making rice? Well, hopefully you figured out that Canada should make ice and Vietnam should make rice. And the reason that is it doesn't mean that they can't make ice in Vietnam, but isn't it true that if they want to make a bunch of ice, they're going to have to give up a lot of resources to do it, right? They're going to have to create environments that take very hot, very humid, very wet conditions and create an environment that takes water and freezes it and make a lot of it. Well, that's going to take a lot of effort in Vietnam because the conditions aren't for that. It'd be like deciding that, Texas is where we're going to make all of our ice. That doesn't make any sense, right? So, so we are going to want to make rice in Vietnam because the conditions are easier for them to do that. They give up less, which means their opportunity cost is less to make rice than it is to make ice. They're giving up less to do it. In Canada, they can make rice if they want to, but they're going to have to create an environment that's super hot and super humid and super wet, and that's just really, really hard to do when you're living that close and geographically speaking. So Canada will specialize in making things that's easiest for them, in this case rice, and Vietnam will specialize in what they're good at, in this case rice. And so that's who's going to produce which one, because they're giving up the least amount to do it. Their opportunity cost is lower to do it. So let's say that you are really, really good at math and you're really, really crappy at foreign languages. And your friend is awesome at foreign languages and not good at math. Well, if you guys have to solve some equations and then interpret that into, and then talk about it in a different language, and you're going to divvy it up, obviously you're good at math, you'll do the math part, your friend will do the translations part, explaining it. Because you want to specialize in what you're good at because you're giving up less to do it. So that's what we call a comparative advantage. We specialize in making the stuff that we are good at making. And we do that by lowering our opportunity costs. We specialize by lowering our opportunity costs, which gives us a comparative advantage. Another way to look at it, and we're like, what if you're in Canada and you want rice? Well, if you're in Canada and you want rice, you sell the crap that you are specializing in making, whether it's ice or cars or whatever they make in Canada, Molson or hockey highlights, I don't know. Whatever they're making in Canada, they sell those things, and with that money, they can buy rice from Vietnam. And they can buy it cheaper because Vietnam can make the rice more easily. And if Vietnam wants, hockey sticks or really kind people talking to them, then they can sell their rice or whatever they're making in Vietnam. They make a lot of shirts and consumer goods too. They'll sell those things that they're specializing in making, and they can buy some hockey sticks from Canada because that's what they're specializing in making. It happens in America all the time. We just see it differently because America is so big. We tend to specialize based on region. So like in Kentucky, we have coal because geographically, we have mountains. They don't make a lot of coal in Nebraska because there ain't no mountains, right? They specialize in Nebraska and Iowa and Illinois and Kansas in making corn and wheat and stuff and soybeans. In Indiana, they do this because the soil is better for it, right? There's better conditions. And then since the soil is better, they get used to doing it, and they have an expertise in doing that, and they can specialize in doing it. And that's what they make there, right? In Forever in Detroit, they made lots and lots and lots of cars because people grew up with that, and they were good at it. They had the means to do it. In Kentucky, we make bourbon. People have been making bourbon for a long time. We have coal. We do horses, right? I live in Woodford County. People grow up around horses. I don't because I can't afford it, but people grow up around horses, and this is what they do, and so we specialize in that kind of stuff. And so we have this kind of regional specialization, right? A lot of it's geographic. There's a reason why Kentucky doesn't specialize in making, fresh lobster and crab is because we don't live in an ocean. But if you go to Maryland or Maine, that's part of their economy, right? If you're living in Texas, right? If you're living in Texas, they're going to be producing stuff and manufacturing stuff that is made more easily in Texas because they can specialize in it because they're giving up less to do it. That is comparative advantage. Now, some countries have an absolute advantage in stuff, and America has absolute advantage in a lot. All that means is we probably can make more rice and more ice than Canada. We would have an absolute advantage in everything because we're big and we're rich, and we're so big. We have areas that are super humid. We can make rice. And we have areas that are cold. We can make ice. We have areas that can make car production. Out west they make planes. I mean, all this regionalization. We can specialize in stuff, and we have an absolute advantage in making that. But that doesn't mean we should make it. We should specialize in what we're giving up the least to do. So when countries trade or decide what to manufacture or produce, they do it based on lowering their opportunity costs and specializing in what comes easiest based on their geography, their past, their culture, all of it. America in the 1800s basically had three parts to it, and each region specialized. The North specialized in manufacturing and shipbuilding and, in mercantile stuff. The South tended to specialize in commercial agriculture, particularly cotton, tobacco, things like that. Where the West, we call the West, today we call it the Midwest, specialized essentially in making lots of food, right? So they were all specializing, and in doing that, they cut their opportunity costs down, which means they can make more money, right? That's the whole basis for why we trade, is to specialize in stuff and lower opportunity costs. I specialize in teaching. Whether you think I'm good or not, that's what I'm doing. And if I want to go buy something else, I take the money I make from teaching and I buy that, right? And that's sort of how comparative advantage works, and the difference between comparative advantage, absolute advantage, and how specialization works into that.